Have you ever noticed how sometimes there seems to be an inner wisdom trying to get our attention, but we rarely listen because we're too busy with responsibilities, traffic, conversations, and social media? Imagine that deep down, there's a part of you that knows the paths, answers, and directions that can illuminate any doubt. This inner voice, often called the soul or essence, isn't just some empty mysticism. It's a real phenomenon that can provide practical insights about relationships, careers, and even that discomfort we feel without being able to explain it. Today's aim is to show you how to tune into this source of clarity. If you stick around until the end, you'll have a chance to learn concrete methods that can change how you see yourself and how you understand the world around you, almost like swapping a foggy lens for a clear one. You've probably heard in the past about the importance of having faith or cultivating your inner self, but maybe you've never received clear instructions on how to do this amid the busy routines most of us have. Don't worry, though, the idea here isn't to present impossible rituals or demand that you drop everything to meditate on a mountaintop. We're looking to offer simple ways, like little adjustments in your day, to create moments of peace that can broaden your perception. And when that happens, we start noticing almost imperceptible signs that guide us to make better decisions, avoid problems that once felt inevitable, and trust our own instincts more. It's amazing to think that this connection is available to anyone, regardless of beliefs or lifestyles. All it takes is a shift in attitude and a touch of genuine curiosity. Some people describe this inner voice as something that saves them in times of crisis or points out opportunities even before they become visible. But it's worth pondering, where does this voice come from? Is it just a product of the mind, or is it a bridge to something bigger, perhaps a connection between what we know as self and the universe around us? The fact is, many people find its existence to be a source of guidance and clarity, especially when the outside world feels chaotic. This raises some questions. If this voice is so important and useful, why is it so hard to hear? Why do we only value it when things get really complicated? The answer might lie in how we live, always rushing from one place to another, with no time to pause, no willingness to look inward, and no mental space to listen to what our heart or body has to say. One way to better understand this essence is by thinking about how we react to everyday doubts. For example, when problems arise at work or school, we often turn to external opinions, we ask friends, search online, or simply ignore the issue until we can't anymore. Rarely do we stop for a few minutes to breathe and try to listen to our inner impulses. Curiously, this simple act of finding a quiet corner, closing our eyes, listening to our breath, and allowing thoughts to flow can reveal insights we didn't even know we had. It's like allowing the mind to escape a maze of worries and find a clear exit. If you haven't tried this yet, now might be the time to give it a shot. And if you're interested in content that encourages this type of discovery, consider sticking with us more often, as it offers ongoing lessons. For those who think this is just exaggerated mysticism, remember instances where, without any logical explanation, you had a feeling that something was off or right, and later found out that feeling made sense. How many times have we heard stories of people who, before leaving home, have an intuition that helps them avoid an unpleasant event? These occurrences, no matter how small, reveal that we possess an inner wisdom that isn't based solely on what is rational and tangible. Because of that, there's a need to cultivate it, as the more attention we give to this voice, the more clearly it manifests. It's a relationship that grows stronger through practice and trust, just like when we learn a foreign language and, after so much practice, we begin to understand without needing to translate word for word. One of the most effective strategies to hear this voice, which is often underrated, is the simple act of cultivating moments of silence. Think about the amount of noise surrounding us: machines, cell phone notifications, TV shows, side conversations. Our brains become so accustomed to this bombardment that we start ignoring more subtle sensations. When we decide to break that cycle for a few minutes, whether in the morning or before bed, something special happens. Silence, far from being empty, allows the mind to find space for deeper thoughts to emerge. In that space, many discover answers to questions they didn't even know were pending. At first, you might feel strange, experience slight discomfort, or anxiety about not knowing what to do with so much calm. But if you persist, you'll see how this habit can reorient your life in surprising ways. Meditation is one of those tools that help us appreciate silence. However, not everyone adapts to traditional practices of sitting cross-legged and focusing on breath. If that's the case for you, there are other ways to quiet the mind. You can take a walk in a tranquil place without your phone, just paying attention to the contact of your feet with the ground. Or you can simply turn everything off for a moment and pay attention to your breathing rhythm. The key is to find a way to deactivate the external and internal noise so that, in that interval, the mind can reorganize and allow the soul to manifest. Regularly repeating this type of practice creates a kind of open channel where ideas and insights flow more freely. Another valuable clue for identifying the voice of the soul is joy. But I'm not talking about fleeting or euphoric joy, I'm referring to that deep satisfaction we feel when doing something that genuinely resonates with who we are inside. It could be a hobby that makes time fly, a meaningful conversation with someone dear, or even an act of kindness that fills us with warmth. This state of deep contentment usually indicates that we're in tune with what our essence values. It's as if the soul is saying, "This is where you truly feel alive." The funny thing is that we often ignore these calls, prioritizing other things like others' opinions or the rush of daily life. If you realize that a certain activity brings a special sparkle to your day, try finding ways to incorporate it into your routine. Little by little, that positive energy might spread to other areas of your life, opening up space for healthier relationships, more authenticity, and even career or personal choices that align with what you really want. When we talk about the body and intuition, we're referring to something that goes beyond a simple hunch. The body often shows signs of discomfort or well-being long before the rational mind understands what's happening. How many times have you felt a tightness in your chest or a knot in your stomach in a situation that logically shouldn't cause such an impact? There may have been a warning from your own internal wisdom, indicating that something needed your attention. This type of message often gets ignored, as our culture places a high value on logical reasoning over other forms of perception. When you notice persistent physical discomfort around certain people or environments, it's worth investigating if it's a warning to protect yourself from something harmful. Likewise, a sudden sense of well-being or that pleasant shiver could mean you're in the right place at the right time. Paying attention to these little signs and recognizing them as a form of communication creates a stronger bond with your own soul. Within this dynamic, practices emerge that help us strengthen that connection. One of them is writing about our dreams. It might seem simple, but recording the images and sensations we experience while sleeping can reveal a lot about what our deepest self is trying to tell us. Sometimes, repetitive symbols appear that represent something we need to resolve, or even creative solutions to problems that haunt us during the day. And you don't have to interpret everything in a mystical or forced way. Just jotting down what you remember and reflecting on possible meanings opens the door to valuable insights. It's a process that requires discipline, as many dreams fade in the first minutes after we wake up. Having a notebook by the bedside helps a lot with this task. Additionally, spending time in nature is another great way to reconnect. When you step away from a tech-filled environment and immerse yourself in places where you can only hear birds or the sound of a stream, you can almost instantly feel a shift in your internal frequency. In that moment, worries start to calm down, and that level of anxiety we thought was normal decreases, making room for a clearer perception of what really matters. If you live in a big city and can't get to completely remote places, even a park or a square can serve this purpose. Feeling the sun on your skin, noticing the wind in the leaves, and breathing in the fresh air activates a side of us that knows how to appreciate the simple things. And when the mind quiets down, we can listen more deeply to what inside us insists on offering guidance. It's important to remember that the process of listening to your own soul doesn't have a definitive end. It's not an achievement you can just put on a shelf and forget about. It's something that renews itself daily as we go through different phases in life and face new challenges. With every change, the soul brings different insights, and it's up to us to decide whether to pay attention or get lost in the external noise again. That's why some people say they feel a continuous call to self-discovery. There's always something to learn, always something new to be revealed. Contrary to what one might think, this call isn't exhausting, as each step forward usually comes with more confidence and a good feeling of being at peace with oneself. When doubts arise about work, relationships, or personal purpose, this inner connection can be crucial for finding answers. Some people say that after cultivating habits like meditation, silence, and tuning into their body's signals, they've become better at navigating complex situations without panicking. It's like having a lighthouse guiding you through the fog, making the journey safer. Of course, this doesn't mean all problems will be solved overnight, but your attitude toward them changes significantly. You stop being a hostage to chaos and start recognizing that there's an internal support system always available, unaffected by external factors. Even though many doubt or find it complicated to include these practices in their daily lives, the truth is that it all starts with small decisions. Waking up a few minutes earlier for some conscious breathing, spending a few moments on the porch or in the yard just observing what's around you, or turning off your phone for a bit to reduce notification noise. These little actions, when added up, create an internal environment that's welcoming for the voice of the soul to emerge. Little by little, you'll notice you're more attentive to details, more open to the advice your thoughts provide, and, surprisingly, friends may mention that you seem calmer and more determined. A valuable suggestion to reinforce this change is to share your insights with people who are also interested in the topic. If you know someone who meditates or reflects on their dreams, exchange ideas. Often, sharing opens doors to learnings that wouldn't come up otherwise. If you don't know anyone in person who shares this interest, consider looking for groups or communities that discuss this topic respectfully and openly. Even the comments section on videos or articles about it can be a space to discover inspiring experiences. And if you feel the urge to comment on how this relates to your daily life, that can help others feel they're not alone in their desire to understand themselves better. One more tip: if you feel inclined to note how this topic helps or intrigues you, commenting sincerely about what you've discovered or which body signal caught your attention can solidify that learning, since writing or talking about something reinforces the knowledge. Sharing experiences enriches the conversation because everyone has a unique perspective. While you might notice signals in your body, someone else might have detailed dreams that touch on delicate points in their subconscious. These differences teach us and show how the process of tuning in with the soul is diverse. Some people wonder if there's any risk in listening too much to the inner voice and neglecting reason. The thing is, it's not about shutting down logical reasoning, but rather complementing it. When both come together, our choices are built on a broader foundation, integrating both rational and intuitive aspects. The rational side helps us plan and analyze pros and cons, while inner perception gives us clues about what truly makes sense in each situation. It's common to think of logic and intuition as opposites, but in practice, they can harmonize if we're open to it. Another key point is that by strengthening this connection with the soul, we begin to notice a greater alignment with situations that foster growth and learning. Sometimes we cling to relationships or projects that aren't good for us, simply because we think it's the right thing or don't want to let anyone down. But the inner voice may show up as a slight discomfort that intensifies every time we stay on that path. Respecting those signals is a way to care not just for ourselves, but also for those around us, as it's better to be in situations that let us be authentic and bring our best selves to the world. A common example can be seen in professional choices. Many people feel stuck in jobs that don't align with their personal values but are afraid to take the next step. When they start dedicating a few minutes daily to silence, journaling about their dreams, and observing their feelings, ideas or opportunities that seemed impossible before can start to emerge. This doesn't mean quitting everything without a plan, but rather noticing that there's potential greater than we imagined. And when the soul points in a direction, it tends to reveal creative solutions so that the transition can happen responsibly while staying aligned with what truly motivates each person. If you've made it this far, you probably realize that this topic isn't exhausted in just one video or a few lines. It's something that can be explored constantly, as our inner being is as vast as the universe out there. So, it's always good to keep that flame of curiosity alive, seeking ways to deepen the connection with what really matters. It's almost like an internal compass, available even when everything around seems confusing. And you don't need to make big changes all at once. Small daily actions can have a massive impact, as long as they're done with intention and consistency. If you have any hesitation, think back to past situations where you felt you should take a certain path but ignored your intuition and regretted it later. Or, on the flip side, those times when you followed what felt right, even without a logical explanation, and things flowed surprisingly well. Those personal examples often serve as the best evidence that, within us, there's a voice full of invaluable wisdom. It might not be infallible, but it adds so much to our discernment. You just have to learn to listen to it and differentiate it from our anxieties or fears. From everything we've talked about, perhaps the most important point is understanding that listening to the soul isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous process that accompanies us through every phase of life, bringing new lessons and insights. If you want to take a next step in this direction, it might be interesting to leave a comment about something that stood out to you in this content. Maybe it's a sign that this inner voice is already making itself known, as it usually prompts us to share and engage in conversation. And when you participate in a space where people exchange ideas about this inner universe, you not only grow but also help others realize they can walk this path too. It's good to remember that, if it makes sense to you, there's a chance to stick around and follow future reflections that will offer new angles on this theme. That way, whenever a doubt or curiosity arises, you'll have access to content that can shed new light on topics that feel hard to grasp. This constant movement of learning, reflecting, and experiencing leads to self-awareness and brings more confidence in dealing with life. From that point on, decisions can be made with more serenity, knowing that you're not alone, not lost. You have a rich internal channel of information that just needs to be polished day by day. Now, we've reached the part where it's worth recalling the main points, but without giving it that finality vibe. The inner voice, the power of silence, joy as a compass, the importance of listening to the body, the value of jotting down dreams, and seeking nature, these are all tools that can be used together or separately. The ideal is for each person to find their way of integrating them into their routine. These practices aim to stimulate the freedom to discover who you truly are, free from masks, external pressures, and unfounded fears. In this sense, the search doesn't end. Each day is an invitation to cultivate a deeper relationship with the soul, to notice messages that previously slipped by, and to make decisions that actually reflect what's good for us. And if this conversation struck a chord with you in any way, maybe it's the right moment to express what resonated most. Perhaps even to subscribe to this channel, quietly, so you can stay in the loop on other reflections that might give you that extra push when your routine feels overwhelming. Also, feel free to leave an impression in the comments if you find it helpful to share what you felt, as this small step can encourage more people to explore the power of silence and rediscover the potential they carry within. After all, the more people realize there's an inner wisdom waiting for attention, the better the world we build together will be, based on the harmony of mind and heart.